Um, Thank you for inviting us to Brazil to speak at TEDx Talks. Once we got the phone call to come down and visit, it was a complete no-brainer. We wanted to get on a plane and get here as fast as we can because we are a huge fan of TEDx Talks and TED Talks. So thank you for having us. It's an honor to come here and talk to you. The reason why we wanted to come and talk to you about is something that concerns Michael and I that's happening in the world right now. It's happening in North America, but we're seeing it everywhere around the world where we go. And that's that mediocrity is becoming the norm. And when I started thinking about mediocrity becoming the norm, it really upsets me. If anybody's seen the show that we produce and that we're in, you'll understand what I'm talking about. It's very anal, it's very detailed, and it's, you know, we'll go to nth degree to try and find any ingredient. But when I was doing my research about mediocrity, I came to the conclusion that mediocrity arrives to us when we have an obsession with time and money. Time and money. It's our obsession with that we want to build things fast and as cheap as possible. You know, when I was a kid, I remember going to a grocery store, and it was the first impact for me to become a chef, and seeing all the produce and the fishmonger and the butchery shop and everything that we could see. It was like a kid in a candy store, and my eyes lit up. Now I go into a grocery store and I want to cry, because all I see are fast foods, frozen foods, prepared foods, and I see the produce section getting smaller, the fish section getting smaller, and the meat section getting smaller. Another part of my research that I had found is that in North America, according to the USDA, that in the past decade, fast food, prepared foods, frozen foods has grown by an exponential amount, specifically from this past decade to decades before us, and they predict it will increase by at least 25% until the year 2013. And again, that really frustrates me. So what I did was this, and don't laugh, okay? Don't laugh. I bought a frozen pizza.
It was pretty funny.
Okay? Because I found out the most popular frozen prepared food is pizza. I'm Italian by nature. I had to figure this out. I had to check it out. I took it home, you know, 20 minutes in the oven, 350 degrees, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I took a bite. Okay. Just between you and I, it sucked. It was horrible. But I thought to myself, how did I even know that this was horrible? How did I know that this was not up to par? It's because I had a reference point. How do I have a reference point, or how do we all have a reference point when it comes to food, or anything for that matter? It is the fact that we have had something better in the past, so that we can say, this is mediocre. We see it in our food, we see it in our architecture, we see it in our music, we see it everywhere now, and it's getting out of control. We even see it in our vegetables.
Yeah, what we have here on your right-hand side is a tomato. It is perfectly round. It is red. It has a nice thick skin. It travels really well because you can put it in boxes, or you can stack it at your grocer, so it's a nice big triangle so that when we go shopping, it looks really pretty. It's been genetically modified. But on the other side, what you see is how that began. That is an heirloom tomato.
A real tomato.
It's a real tomato. What's real about it? It's got a thin, juicy skin. It's got an irregular shape. It's not perfectly red. It comes in different colors, as we saw earlier,
and shapes.
Different shapes. And you know what? It tastes really good. And it only comes out seasonally. The other one you can get all year round. And so what we have here is something that's really sad and frightening for me, is the fact that the heirloom tomato, almost 80% of all those seeds are now lost. They're now lost. Mediocrity has taken over what we thought was excellence. Our grandfathers, our great-grandfathers, they ate those. We are eating those. And our children are going to start to recognize that, in fact, will be the norm. And what Guy said before, and what I'm saying right now, is that mediocrity has become the norm, and if we don't start to do something about it, it's going to affect our kids, and it's already affecting us as we speak.
As I mentioned before, we can see it in a lot of other different areas, and we'll pick, of course we would start with food, because that's our nature. So, you know, we'll leave food for a second, and we'll talk about architecture, for example. Let's take a look at some of the architecture. Look at the beautiful work of Gaudi that we see in Spain. Look at some of the beautiful cathedrals that we find in Italy. And think about some of the churches that are being built right now. Think of some of the other buildings that are built right now. I look around the world and when I'm traveling and stuff, and I see that mediocrity theme just coming back again when I see architecture. Most of the buildings that we're building right now is, in fact, not from passion, not from creativity, but how fast can we get it up? And how less expensive can we get it up for and get people in there so we can get our buck back and we can get our money? Not to the fact that, hey, why don't we sit there and think, and who cares how long it takes, that we can build something that will look beautiful now and will look beautiful and be useful for generations and generations to come and say, wow, this generation was cool. They did something. They took their time. They built something. I'm not sure that we're doing it as well as our forefathers did before us.
Well, I'm sure we're not. I mean, in Toronto, you go look at the suburbs right now, and you look at the homes that they're building, and if you have a few drinks, when you come home, you're liable to end up at your neighbor's house because they all look exactly the same.
Exactly.
So what's the problem, and really more importantly, what is the solution? And we've come up with what we call a roadmap to excellence. And it really composes of 3 elements. And the first one being passion, the second one being creativity, and the third one being courage. And Guy's going to talk a bit about passion.
Well, we know one thing about passion. Passion does not care about time, and it doesn't care about money. And we all know this. And anything that drives, and some of the speakers that we heard today, the key thing that it didn't matter whether we were talking about bread, we were talking about preserving seeds, we were talking about ecological friendly items, slow movement, it didn't matter. What brings everybody here, and the whole point of these talks really is just passion. And the reality is that, you know, I don't think that we feel that kind of passion anymore. And with the passion that we need to create is going to drive us to forget about the time and forget about the money. And let's get back to the fact that what is really important is sustainability. And what is really important is how we feel. Michael and I recently were in Chile, and we went to this vineyard because Chilean wines, as I'm sure you know, are exploding through the roof. And they're some of the best valued wines that are out there. And I want to give you an example about passion. There's this place called Casa La Pistol in the Colchagua Valley. And one of the direct descendants from Grand Marnier, this beautiful French woman, decided she was going to take French grapes, move them to Chile, and make French wine in Chile, not having any experience whatsoever. But she had it in her head that she was going to do this. Everybody, all the naysayers around you saying, oh, this is impossible, you don't know what you're doing. Sure, you have a lot of money, but who cares? It's not just about the money. No, it wasn't about the money, it was about the passion. This woman went and did it. She was told she was going to fail. She said if at best she was going to get any attention, it was going to take 2 decades, and within somewhere between the 5 to 10 year radius, everybody's writing about her. She's making a fortune, and it's one of the best wines that are being made out of the world currently right now. That is passion, and the results that we get when we exude the passion that is within us and forgetting about failure and forgetting about fear is when we create beautiful things.
Well, and I mean, the reality is that we all know these people. We all know those people that are really passionate, have excelled at what they do. We need to put those people up on a pedestal because those are the ones that we should be using for inspiration. They're the ones that are going to help us and we can aspire to. They're the ones that our kids that are at school should be made aware of. The next element on the road to excellence is creativity. And this one I'm going to share to you as an example. This young gentleman happens to be my son. He's 2.5 years old, and his name is John Paulo. And I think I've learned more from him than he's actually learned from me. The other day I was sitting and I was working at my desk, and he came up to me and he goes, Daddy, can I write too? And I said, of course, John Paulo, you can write. So he walks over and he gets his box of markers and he throws them on the ground, and there are 10 markers. He then looks at the 10 markers and he says, picks up the red one, makes a mark, picks a blue one, makes another mark, thinks about it, grabs a green one, and makes another mark. And I'm sitting there with a black pen, looking at it on a piece of paper, looking like, what's happened? Well, the reality is, we're all born creative. It's just that somehow along the way, we stop being creative.
In fact, I don't know the exact translation, but it was Picasso that once said that when we're born, we're all artists. The trick is, and the hardest thing to do, is to remain an artist when we grow up. And I think that's the point that Michael's alluding to.
Yeah, it's exactly the point. And what I think is that why don't we have in the curriculum at school an area that says creativity? It's as important as math. Without creativity, we would not have innovation. Without innovation, where would we be today? And it's really frightening to me to think that we don't spend enough time focusing on that. And that is a definite result will take us to the road to excellence. The third element that's really important in terms of on the road to excellence is courage. And this is one that probably is one of the hardest, because it's the courage, and two fronts. It's the courage to say no. That's not acceptable. I'm sorry, but you can do better. And it's the courage to go out and do what you want to do and pursue your passion.
At any risk. At the risk of failure, at the risk of fear, at any risk. That's what courage means.
And the other thing that's really important that goes on along with courage is you need to encourage other people to be courageous, to be passionate, to pursue their dreams. And that will get them to the road of excellence. And it's not hard. In fact, I'll tell you a little story. When 2 years ago, my wife and I were trying to figure out what to get Guy for his birthday, which is literally almost impossible. And we came up with the idea.
Oh, because I have everything,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Well, he's very difficult, let me put it that way. Particular is probably, an understatement. But anyway, so we came up with the idea of getting him some production time in a music studio, because he's always been passionate and always wanted to pursue a career in music. Well, fast forward 2 years, and Guy now has a band called BMD. He has just finished producing.
That's me with the leotards and the black boots.
He plays in drag.
I
too.
wear a wig actually when I go.
He plays
on.
in drag. Just adds a little.
I tend to sing a bit higher than the other guys in the band. So.
And in all seriousness, he just finished producing an album, and he also will be touring at the end of this month. And he's actually going to do a little song for him that actually has been inspired by this in fact tonight.
If we can get hooked up here. This is a song that I wrote that specifically talks about being courageous in fear and sort of, for the lack of a better word, getting up off your ass and doing something. And the reality is that, when we take on these kinds of...
No, you can't hear the mic now.
Mic on? Oh,
Yeah.
You can, okay. Actually, it might sound better with the mic off. But yeah, this is essentially what I was talking about, at all risk. And it's not easy to do this, but nothing in life that's easy is usually worthwhile. So appropriately, the name of this song is Not Easy.
All you need to feel is now. So take a 1 step forward, don't look back. If it's gone, then bring it back now. Love is life, 'cause it's not easy. And don't tell me this is where we're at. If it's gone, then bring it back now. And love is life, 'cause it's not easy. Life's not forever and you need to hang somehow. One thing to remember is there always is an out. So get yourself together, there's no time to think of down. Time feels now.
Thank you. Obrigado.
You'll be thankful I didn't do the backup vocals for that. So, the drive to excellence. Passion, creativity, and courage. When we started producing our television series, Made to Order, we put those three things up on our screensaver so that when we looked, every day when we woke up, those are the three things that we would look at to drive us to put out the series. It was a new television series, it was a new concept of a food show, and it was often looked upon out there as the little train that could. And that's the way we looked at it.
Literally, everybody who was telling us when we were pitching the show and everything to a bunch of different people, they were like, there's no chance this is going to work. No one's going to be interested in two brothers running a restaurant, God knows where, even in Canada especially. And about the tribulations that, you know, the chef in the back who's the artist, and then, you know, the manager and the sommelier in the front who's responsible for the businesses side of it, and the clashing and everything else. And then, you know, then we said, well, but we want to shoot it on HD. And they're like, well, no one wants HD. And we thought, well, no, but HD is going to be the future at some point. And, you know, everything was working against us completely. But we tried it, and we stuck our necks out. And without fear, without passion, without courage, we wouldn't be here today, right now, meeting all of you and being interviewed, and people coming up to me around the world saying, I love your show, you know, you've inspired me to cook, you've inspired me to do this, and on and on and on.
And the cool thing is that, you know, I mean, and Made to Order is now in 190 countries worldwide, which we're really, really proud of. But the most important message about that really is that on that path for us to try to achieve excellence, and incorporating all those the three elements that we talk about, courage, creativity, and passion, the people that we have met, and the experiences that we have truly enriched our lives, and that in itself is worth the journey. Thank you very much for having us here tonight.